Hi, Julia.
Hi,
How have you been?
I've been doing well. How are you?
Uh, I've been keeping busy, and at the same time, I have been doing a few sketches. So I don't
Oh,
know if I showed you this one yet.
you might have briefly, but I don't know if I don't yeah, it's really nice. I like it. Is it you?
No, it's actually my mother. Today's Mother's Day, by the way,
Oh,
and it's my mother and her brother.
oh, I really love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it's very minimal the way I did it because it was a sketch that I just did on the fly. It didn't take me very long, about 20 minutes.
It's a watercolor, right? Like a watercolor
Yes,
sketch.
it is. It is a watercolor.
I really like what you've been doing with your Instagram too, with the little reels and the watercolor and how you speed. It's really cool. I've been enjoying that.
Well, thank you. I just don't have more time than that to spend on things. So, and
Oh,
you like
that's
that?
beautiful. Yeah, that's your mom, right?
Yeah, you know me. So that is my mom. My mom
Oh.
was actually much prettier than that, but that's as good as I got.
I mean, I still think you really did her justice, and it's a very beautiful painting. I like it.
Well, thank you. Thanks. I did another one and sent her, but it was tiny. It was a miniature in a car.
Oh,
I don't know if you have any idea who that is.
hmm. Can you tell me? Because I'm not really sure who that is.
Okay, it's my attempt at Captain Kirk. Um,
Oh, okay. I kind of like it. It's cool.
yeah, it
Interesting.
doesn't look exactly like him.
I mean, I kind of see like a younger version. It does have that younger look to him, but to be
Yeah,
honest with you, I don't always think about Captain Kirk. So that's pretty neat.
yeah. That I actually got 1.4K views on a short that I did of that. But
That's awesome. Wow. Oh, Spock, right? Spock.
yes, it's not a very good likeness of Spock, so that one didn't do it as well. But it's what I could do in the amount of time I had, and
And it's alla prima painting. That's what it's called, right? When you do like a quick, is
right,
that?
exactly.
I like it though. I think it's really cool because it's a form of art, and a lot of people really love all. And I think you're doing really good, like with these quick sketches. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, so I have so much on my plate right now. I can't take time to do something very well thought out. So I just sketch out what I can and I move on.
I did work a little bit more on the painting. I don't know if I've shown you what I did since last time.
Oh, I'd like to see it. Yes.
Yeah, I have it right here. Like, I still want to do a few more things, but I just spent about 20 minutes. So, what I did was I kind of made a foreground, but kept it sunsetty. But I'm making kind of like a magenta black,
Oh,
and it's pretty much done. It
yeah,
looks
it's
the same,
very
but
beautiful.
yeah, that's what I did with the foreground because I was like, I want to do something with it. So I just like made it like you're looking on a hill, and this is kind of what it looks like in the
Right.
hills of California. Like you might be looking over a hill. So that's what I did.
Very nice. I
Yeah,
like,
so I just decided to do that. So it's like I kind of want to finish it, but I wanted to keep it simple and make it more like a sunset silhouette.
yeah, it's beautiful. I love the colors.
Yeah, I think you can't really see on camera, but what's kind of cool is like I took the black and the magenta, and it's still a black color, and I kind of like playing around with like different variations of black tones. I really love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I think I saw you doing some of that on your channel.
Yeah, I did 11 days ago, but you know what? I was just surprised because usually I'd get a little bit more views for a live stream like that, but that one didn't. But it might have just been the way I filmed it, maybe, or the time of day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to get views right now.
Yeah. I mean, I used to like when I did like a midnight cooking thing, I would get maybe not a ton of views, but triple what that one got. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have you been like drawing anything else, or that's pretty much what you've been doing right now?
That's that's about it.
So what
I
else have you been up to?
just working,
Yeah,
working.
I have been watching some shows because honestly, I'm not the best at studying a language, but I'm becoming more interested in Turkish via watching the show Magnificent Century. And what I've learned about Turkish, and this is what somebody said, like some people that are very linguistically inclined, like yourself, they said you could learn how to read Turkish very quickly because its pronunciation is very close, like the way it's spelled, it's very simple to figure out. And I kind of realized that I'm like, oh, it is like words like yaza, choke, like the different like little symbols they have on the letters. It really makes it easy. Like if you were to sit down and really study it, I've learned a few words like kimse means anyone. There's this song called Benim O. I love Benim O. Oh my gosh, I've been listening to that, and it's called It's Mine. And the lyrics are very beautiful, and it kind of just reminds me of like songs, like Turkish songs like that we used to have back in the 80s that you could sing and just were like more uplifting. And I've kind of been getting into that.
Can you share the lyrics?
I can share them. I can find it. Let's see. It's just basically a love song, but it reminds me of like the type of love songs that we had on videos back in the 80s that were just more beautiful. And
Did it start with the word benim?
I think
Benim?
it does, yeah, at the very beginning. So I'm trying to find one. Do you just want the I want to find the lyrics in English and Turkish.
The reason right now it's written very phonologically is that Ataturk revised the writing system of the language sort of recently. So, it's not like it was anciently written that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. But see, I would need to start actually learning to speak Turkish and what I'm doing is I watch a show and then I'm like, what did they say in the show? And this is probably not the best way to learn a language at all. I'm not saying that this is a good way.
Doing that. I'm doing that with Korean. So that's not a bad way to try to learn on the fly. So benim means my, right? Ben,
yeah, it's mine. Yeah, it's mine. I'm just trying to find
is I and then
Ben is I. Yes, you're so right. Like Ben Americalium, think means I'm American. I had written some things down, but I don't have it with me. I'm just trying to find a good website that shows both the Turkish and the English lyrics that I can share.
And hopefully we're not stepping on anybody's copyright toes. We're just doing this for.
I don't think so, because actually, this is the thing about musicians. They want people to sing their songs. They want people to appreciate their music. So it's a different, like, I know some people are very like picky about that, but I don't think musicians are, because it's a form of art in a way,
Right. Well, architecture is also a form of art. And yet I've come across difficulties sharing images.
I'm just not seeing good website. Like I saw one the other day.
You can go on Google Maps and actually get a picture of a building somewhere. But then Google Maps claims copyright to the picture that you take. So you still have to.
Really? I did not know that. I did not know that. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm looking at a lot of the lyrics. This is so strange, because the other day I saw really good lyrics for it, and now like, let me make sure I'm spelling it correctly. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know if I'm going to share the lyrics, because right now I should have looked up something before.
Okay, well, let me see if I can.
No, I'm looking. It's just the lyrics that they're suggesting are not quite right. It's a different song.
Okay, what's the name of the song?
It's Benim O.
Okay.
Sure, I'm still spelling it. Oh, that's why I might be spelling it wrong. Okay. Okay, here we go. I found something there. I had to so I can show the lyrics in English to start with. Let me go into share.
Oh, I want to see the Turkish ones.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean the Turkish one. Okay, I'll go into the share screen. I guess you'll have to let me in.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Let me try to figure this out because it's been a while. So screen share. And I've got my stuff that I was screen sharing earlier today. Isn't that crazy? Shouldn't be there.
Well, that's exciting though. I love this.
Okay, so why is it not letting me let you? Okay, multiple. I clicked multiple people. See if you can do it now.
I think I can now. I'm gonna go in and I should be able to get there now, but let me go to the right screen. Not it. Okay. No, right here. Okay, here we go. I would sing it, but I know some of the words like Benim O, say, vermi. Like there's a few words I can say, but some of the beginning words. I mean, I would play it, but I don't want us to get in trouble. So
yeah, no, we don't want to get in trouble. Even though actually this channel is not monetized, but we still don't want to be in trouble.
I mean, it's up to you. Like if you want me to.
No, I think we better not.
Okay. But it's just a very beautiful little song. And it reminds me, like, if you liked not exactly pop music, but just like I feel like before the 90s, like there were just videos that were they were nice and they weren't like all dark or like just kind of over sexualized. It's just a very beautiful, it just reminds me of the way music videos used to be when you could just kind of have something that was stylistic and just kind of beautiful. And I just really admired that. And also it's in Turkish, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And it kind of correlates with how I'm trying to learn. So I wonder if it lets us translate it after that. Let's see. I'm trying to see if it will give us the English translation here. Oh yeah, here we go. So it's just a really pretty little video, and I think it just says like I have someone that I'm attached to that I avoid. There's someone I hug from afar, but it's just very stylistic, and I think it's about a woman just talking about someone that,
yeah. So this is the third person pronoun, and this is the first person pronoun, and it's got something here to say that it belongs to. So that's how it means he is mine. So actually the mine thing comes first. You know, in English, in the English title, it says he's mine. But this is really how it is. This is the mine and this is the he.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's interesting the way the topic, you know, it's in English, we have a subject first. So the subject is he, and then the verb is, and then what are we saying about him? That he's mine. But here in Turkish, they want to put the topic first. The topic is the fact that he's mine, right? The mine.
Yeah, thing. Exactly. And that actually makes more sense in a way, right?
Right. Yeah, and they don't have to have a verb to be here. This is in present tense, so there's no verb to be. There's only the pronoun he, o, and that pronoun really, if you add stuff to it, there's an n that appears here, but the n is silent and is not here, you know, when it's all by itself.
Yeah, you don't hear it. Just you hear Benim O. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of cool, and it kind of coalesced with me learning like a few words from Magnificent Century, because I would always hear them saying kimse, and I was like, what's kimse? So I went online and I started Googling kimse, and that song came up like a few months ago, and I was like, oh, it means anyone or to anyone. And then there's a few other words I've learned that I really like there's no way in English like to just like cohesively say it's a pity. Like if something really sad or tragic happens, like you could say it's a pity, but that doesn't really have an impact. But in Turkish, there's a phrase, just one word, yazık, that just it conveys that. And I just love it. Like if something's just really sad or unfortunate, all you have to say is yazık. And I love that about Turkish. Like, and when I'm watching the show, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, there's nothing in English that, like, is there any phrase or word in English that conveys that meaning that you can think
Well,
of?
I mean, people just say pity without it's a pity. They'll just say, oh, pity,
It is
especially if they're
boring.
British.
To me, like, that's not exciting, but the Turks have this flair and they say yazık, and in a very dramatic scene, it just kind of coalesces.
Yeah, in Hebrew, we say chaval.
That sounds more interesting to me, but maybe
Yeah,
I'm just,
there's a poem that goes, chaval, 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 al tapuach shenafal mirosh ha'etz, shenafal ve'itpotzetz. And I'll tell you what that means. So too bad, too bad, too bad about an apple that fell from the top of the tree, that fell and burst. Okay, so anyway, chaval means too bad or it's a pity.
there's another Turkish word. It was a painting project. Do you remember when I painted the word aşk? I don't think I ever made an edited video about it, but do you remember when I was painting that?
I think so. It was one of your like cursive paintings or
Well, yeah, I have it right here. I can show you. It was just like, because I had some leftover acrylic paint one day. And I'm sure there's another word like in Hebrew or Arabic. Well, I guess Habibi, but I feel like aşk actually is more interesting. Here it is.
nice. And what does that mean?
It means love, but like a deep love, like a fervent love, like aşk, like the whole idea of love, like it's very deep, it's very fervent. Because something about the Turks, like just traditionally, like the idea of love, like even if people aren't faithful to each other, but if they have that love for each other, and this is a big theme in the show, it's like aşk, like it's just so deep. And you're just willing to do something for that love and the loyalty. Like it's a certain conveyance of love that I don't feel from American dramas. Like I don't ever feel that like emphasis on the loyalty to the love like in an American drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's really very little right now in American dramas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the Korean that I picked up is saran. I mean, if somebody loves somebody, and there's something added to it like sarani, but the word for love I think is saran.
Yeah. So I've learned a few words. Like I'm so beginner because I haven't studied the language at all, but it's just kind of cool to watch the show
Yeah.
and to like learn a few words. But the funny thing about it, the show is I decided a long time ago I wanted to finish the show because I get these ideas in my head, Aya, like even if it's not historically accurate, sometimes I'm like, I want to finish something just to see what I think about it from beginning to end. Like I have this obsession with finishing certain things, even if it takes me a long time. But this is a 4-season series, and every episode is like a Korean drama where it's 150 minutes every episode. So I've been doing it on and off for 2 years, and I'm finally up to episode 97 because I started watching again recently.
Well, how many more episodes do you have now?
I have about 40 more because it goes up to 138. But it's interesting because okay, there was this German Turkish actress. Well, she's German by nationality, Miriam Azarelli, who played Harem Sultan up until episode 100. I guess she left because she was pregnant at the time and she felt ill. So this is not the historically accurate part, but I'm just curious to see how they do this. Somehow they write her out of the script, like something happens where her arch enemies, who is Shah Sultan, who is the Sultan's sister, like they don't like her, and Hatisha doesn't like her, so they get rid of her and she disappears for a couple of years. So they bring back, it's kind of funny, another Turkish actress who's actually, I've been watching, you know how YouTube sometimes recommends clips to us of a show? Do you get that in your recommendations?
Yeah.
Like So I've been watching clips. I haven't watched ahead yet, but I keep watching these clips because I'm kind of weird. Like I just want to see where the show's going. And what is I'll have to look up the name of the older actress, but she's actually very, like, she's very sophisticated in a way Miriam is not, because she was younger at the time playing this role. So it's an interesting like arc. Like they're trying to show what Harem was like as an older woman. So it's kind of interesting how they did it, bringing in a different actress.
Yeah.
So
Sounds interesting.
yeah, like I'm just, like I said, it's not historically accurate, but then there's another like element to the series. It's just I'm just curious like why they decided to do this. And a lot of people are actually really upset because Marima was like the most powerful sultana. She was the daughter of Suleiman. She's actually the only child that was buried with him in his tomb. She had the
Wow.
closest relationship with him. When Harem passed away, like I read about this, like she was his advisor, and she was the beginning of the Sultanate of Women, where women had a lot of power in Turkey, because after Suleiman passed away, he reigned from 1520 to 1566, which is very comparable, you know, to Elizabeth I, like a very long reign. But after him, there was a lot of instability because his son that he picked the wrong son. It's unfortunate. I mean, of course, he was going to pick one of Harem's children. He wasn't going to pick Mustafa, but historically, Mustafa was like very just. He was very fair. Like the European diplomats actually really liked him. And one of the reasons was because his advisor had been Ibrahim Pasha, who had been the vizier, who was a Greek man that had converted to Islam. And but he was executed because Suleiman thought, oh, he was going to take power away from him. But then historically, what I've been noticing, like when you go back and read, he was like, yes, he wanted power for himself, but the irony was he was the one that helped to expand the Ottoman Empire during all those wars and campaigns. He was actually, European like countries wanted to deal with him more than other viziers. Like he was just very articulate. He was into culture. He had actually people got mad at him because he had Greek statues in his yard. They're like, he's worshiping idols. Like, he was kind of controversial, but looking back in history, he was what helped the Ottomans expand during that 1520 to 1535 time period. So after he was executed, they're not saying that was the exact fall of the Ottoman Empire, but it's interesting because they picked the wrong son because they executed Mustafa was Ibrahim's protege, Divaron's son. So of course they're gonna become jealous of him, and they ended up executing him. There is some controversy that Harem might have said something to make Suleiman do that, because back then they had fratricide, where they would kill all the male heirs and one would be left. So they think maybe Harem was behind that. There's no concrete evidence, but people believe that. They truly believe that. So it ended up that her like most incompetent son became the sultan. I think I've told you about that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how they play it out in the series, because it's not quite accurate. Like the way they portray things, like Mirama, like she just was a very educated woman, and she wasn't always pining after all these men. But in the series they make it like, oh, she wants to marry this person that she was probably never in love with, and oh, she can't marry him, so she has to marry Rustum. And they actually had a very respectful marriage, but the way it's portrayed in the series is kind of strange, because Rustum in the series is like jealous and he's conniving, and they make it out, and there's no concrete historical evidence for this, but basically he was the stable master, which might seem like a very minimal job, but that was very important to the Sultan because he took care of all the horses. But in the series, the way that they made it seem that he got this role was that he somehow murdered the older stable master. And there's this, it's really strange. Like the series like went off on a deep, it's just so strange. And he's very conniving. And then like there's all this drama, like, oh, like Marima really loves Ballet Bay, who is Suleiman's Chamberlain, and they go off on battle, and Marima has written a letter to Ballet Bay, and Rustum's like all grape chili jam, and he sees a letter being delivered, so he sneaks into Ballet Bay's tent, he steals the letter, and then later on Marima asks Ballet Bay, do you love me? He goes, I cannot love you, I am it's just there's a lot of drama in the story that's not based on the actual historical events. It's a soap opera. It's like a telenovela. So, but I keep watching because I'm kind of curious about the Turkish language. But I would say some of the scenes are very contrived.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching this series. It's not historical. In fact, at the beginning, before the music starts, they keep saying nothing in this series, no people, no organization, no religion in this series is real. And it's kind of funny because one of the religions is obviously Christianity. So I've heard of Christianity before. It can't be that it's not real, but you know what they're trying to say.
Yeah, what they're trying to say is like, and we can say we're saying these are actual events.
Right, exactly. But it is really funny to say that. And so the reason I started I just watch a lot of Korean shows anyway, but it said that it was about privacy in the electronic age, and I thought that was an interesting topic. It's really not about that, at least not from my point of view. So it starts out with this family, a mother, a daughter, and a father, who are basically con men. You know, they con people. And so we start out, we see them, they're in a restaurant and they're arguing about stuff. And then they notice that somebody who's kind of drunk is leaving the restaurant. So they follow this drunk guy, and the mother pushes the daughter into the street as the guy drives off in his car. So they can have a personal injury lawsuit against him.
Gosh.
And the daughter said, "Did you have to push me so hard?" You know, and she said, "Oh, we have to make it realistic."
Oh, wow. Gee.
You know, the daughter's a teenager. So they end up in the hospital and they keep arguing with each other about all sorts of petty things. And so for a while, they're living like this, you know, from con job to con job to con job, and all three of them are involved in it. And then one day, the daughter spots her father, and he's pretending to be handicapped, you know, like he's paralyzed, like his legs won't move, but he's not sitting in a wheelchair. He's like on a skateboard, and he's got his legs in a sack, and and he's moving around and asking people to give him money. And people are giving him money, and his daughter catches up with him in the place where he takes off the sack and, you know, stands up, and she says, "Can't you think of any other better way to earn a living than that?"
Oh my gosh. I've come across things like this in real life similar to that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so this goes on for a while, and then one day some people just pull off the sack and they expose him, and all sorts of people are laughing at him in the middle of a city square, and he looks like he wants to just slink away. But then this really well-dressed woman, you know, she's well-dressed, but she's dressed like almost like a nun, you know, shows up, and she says, "Oh, Pastor Cha, I'm so, why didn't you tell us that this is how you were raising money for the poor? I would have helped you. I feel so bad for you." And then she talks to the crowd, and she gets them to totally change their mind about him.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But it wasn't him. He didn't set her up to do that. She set him up to have that fall and then that rise, because they're organizing a church.
Oh.
And they decided they were going to give him the part of the pastor.
Oh God. Oh no. This sounds like Scientology, so that's funny.
No, it's not like that. There's con after con after con. And so what happens is he starts to really like the role of being the pastor. In fact, he was given, at one point they showed that he was given a script he was supposed to play off, but he's kind of haphazard in the way he does things. So he lost his speech. And here he comes into this place where he's supposed to be organizing to ask for money for these con people. And all of a sudden he says I lost my speech, but that's okay. I'm just going to tell you what I really think. And he goes off and he says, sometimes you really can't trust people and whatever because you think that maybe they want the money, but really you have to have faith and blah. And he just gets all, I mean, it's almost like he's telling the truth because he is telling his truth. And
Uh-huh.
everybody gets, and hallelujah and amen. And it's so funny that the introduction says, there's no such religion, but it sounds like a religion I've heard of before.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like because I know a few things about it. Kind of has that sound to it to me without being that.
So and they tell him, we want you to give a lot of sermons because we're going to build a new church, and the new church is called the Altogether Church. So their slogan is, in the Altogether Church, everybody is all together. Something like that. Everybody's together. Anyway, he does really well for them. Because they need millions of dollars to build this gigantic church in Seoul. It's going to be like a skyscraper.
It sounds like one of those mega churches that people go to, sort of, maybe.
Right. Except that the con people run off.
Uh-oh.
And he gets left holding the bag. He actually believed in the church. He thought the church was a good investment. So he actually took some of his earnings and he invested it in the church, and he lost everything, and he got sent to prison.
Oh no. So he's like the fall guy for their crime. Do they try to find these con artists, or no? They're like, they just are like, oh, it's
they left the country.
Oh.
But they also, one of them turned on another of them. So it's all, the woman got dumped. The woman who was all chaste and everything, she was actually, the lover of this other guy, and you would think, okay, so this is a show about con men. Okay, that would be enough. That would be enough of a topic. But no.
No.
It's a show about these two conglomerates. One of them is called UI Construction, and the other one is called GK Construction. And they're both, they're not really constructing buildings or anything. They're trying to pick they're called kingmakers. They're trying to pick the politicians who win in Korea.
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah, so that church was actually a money laundering scheme for one of those conglomerates. But you know what, Julia? It's too complicated for me. Maybe I could understand it in English. It's in Korean. I'm trying to follow it. And there are so many sides to every little scheme, every little plan. And in the middle of this, there's also a love story between two, the girl who is the daughter of the would-be pastor. She tries a con to get back at that woman because she thinks it's the woman's fault that her father went to prison. But the woman is smarter than her, so she ends up, going to prison for a while and then getting released. And then there's this guy who works for GK Conglomerate. It's called the GK Shadow. And anyway, they meet and they start lying to each other because neither of them can tell the other the truth, but they're in love. So he wants to know about her family, and she says, oh, well, actually, I'm an orphan. And then he decides, and he says, oh, that's very brave of you to admit that you're an orphan. Actually, she has a father who's still in prison and a mother who's a loan shark. But she wants him to think well of her. So she thinks the best thing she can do is say, I was actually raised by these two people who are my guardians, and I'll let you get to know them. And actually, one of them is a police officer who was trying to help her get to the bottom of that case. And the police officer's boyfriend or whatever. So she Meanwhile, and he says, it's brave of you to admit that you're an orphan. I really applaud you for telling me the truth. There are some people who would just hire people to pretend to be their mother and father just to make a good impression. And the next thing you know, he invites her to meet his mother and father, except he's an orphan and he hired them.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I don't even understand the whole story. It's so complicated.
I'm almost wondering if you even are a native Korean speaker. It might just be one of these shows that goes off on so many different subplots that, like, after a while, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to keep watching? Because there's just so much going on.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of got a Mission Impossible type of theme to it, and there's
Okay.
music like that. And every so often, there's just a fight scene, and
Oh,
uh, yeah, and it's obviously very well choreographed.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
And there's this one guy, he's very big, but he's not fat. He's just extremely muscular,
Yeah, it's a
and
muscular kind of
he only fights.
bodybuilder.
Yeah, he only fights with one hand. I don't know what the deal is with that, but
What does that mean? I don't know. That must be something in the
it's
fighting
like,
world.
he has two hands. They both work, but he won't use this one. He'll just use that one. So, but like 10 people are coming at him, and he goes, and they
Oh,
fall. He makes
wow.
all of them fall, and he's only using one hand.
Oh my gosh, that almost reminds me kind of like of, well, one fictionalized scene in Magnificent Century where Bayezid's being attacked by some people that are trying to kill him or assassinate him, and he kills everybody, like 10 people with his one sword. And it's just like these
Yeah,
fight
well,
scenes
one
must be,
sword can do it, I guess. You can shish kebab a lot of people.
but like all the other blood swords too, how is he good enough that he gets all these people? Like, is he
Yeah, yeah. So they're all fighting. Even the girls know how to fight, but it's realistic in the sense that they don't pretend the girls are stronger than the guys. In American shows,
yeah.
they've started to the point where they don't, like,
But
there's
that's
no difference in the musculature of a woman and a man, and of course there is a very big difference.
there's a big difference. I just think that's like denying reality and science, but whatever.
Right. So in this show, it's not like that. The girls realize they're girls and they can only do so much fighting. They do rely on guys to help them out, but they do know how to fight too.
Yeah, that's true. See, it's interesting. That's an interesting show. Wow, there's a lot going on there though.
Yeah. I mean, because right now there are two politicians, and half the people that we know are supporting one set of politicians, half the other. There's a secret ledger that shows all of them were on the take, not just
Oh,
this
I'm
one.
sure. Like, but it's divide and conquer politics. Is that basically what is going to
Yeah,
come out
that's
at the
what it
end?
is. And every minute they switch sides, and I'm so confused, you know.
See, to me, that's just the personification of this fictional version of Rustum, although he wasn't like that in real life because he couldn't be bribed. But basically, he's a personification of a self, you know, interested politician who's going to do whatever it takes to make it look like, oh, I'm against my opponent, but really behind closed doors, they're making deals together.
Yeah. Well, I think this really does happen in reality,
It
but not
happens all the time. That's what our whole political system is about.
right. Yeah, but not in quite that coordinated a way, maybe.
No, no, it's more like under the surface, right?
Yeah, no, I don't know what it really looks like because I've never been an important person. So I've never been party to all of that. But
I mean, no, I've never been, but I think very few of us, like, I don't know of many people that have been that high up in the political power structure that, and are they going to tell us? Would they ever really let us know? They're not.
right. But I mean, in this world, in the alternate universe that I'm telling you about,
Yeah.
it's like you can start at the very bottom as a con man and then end up at the top. But if you're just an honest person, you have no chance.
Yeah. That sounds like it. Like you have to be conniving, have no scruples in this like alternate universe, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, but they still manage to make us think that some of the people are good. And at a certain point, I kind of lose my balance and I don't know that any of them are good, you know?
Maybe none of them are good. Maybe that's the whole premise. Like, if anybody's involved in this power struggle, I don't think any of those people are going to be noble people.
Well, I mean, the guy has to go into hiding and pretend that he was murdered because there was a contract on his life. And then he comes back and he says something like, "Why did I have to die?" He says that to his employer who ordered him to be killed.
Yeah, that's just strange. Wow.
And the employer says, "Well, do you want me to kill you again?" And he says, "Well, do you want me to come back to life again?"
Like a second resurrection. Okay. Interesting premise for a show. Wow.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like, you know, so he eventually meets her parents. Eventually, all the truth comes out, and her father has already been released from prison, and his name Lee Jun Hwan is stated, and the father said, "I thought you said he was dead," and the mother says, "Yeah, but he came back to life." and,
Wow.
and
Okay.
then he bows down to them and he says, "I'm sorry to be doing this at this particular moment, but Abonim, Omanim, I'm your son-in-law." You know? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff about family relationships that I'm learning about, but I don't think I still understand the politics in Korea or anywhere else.
No, and it sounds like even though there might be glimpses of it, I feel like this is going to be highly fictionalized because it's a show, right? Like,
Yeah, it's just a little bit too glib and it goes a little bit too fast.
and things don't work like that in real life. There's a lot of like really just dull moments and even power struggles. Like, it's not all like boom, boom, boom action. Like,
Yeah, well, no, they divide it nicely between boom, boom, boom action and quiet moments. Let's put
okay, okay, like it's a perfect balance. Whereas I would say like maybe a fraction of it is like that. Well,
yeah.
I'm just speaking of like military conflict. Like, anybody who's been in the military will tell you a lot of it is just sitting around a lot of the time, just sitting around like at your post, and that's it. And you see some action, but a lot of the time you're just doing mundane things.
Right. Well, I mean, they have a police officer, two police officers actually, a man and a woman, and they spend a lot of time sitting in the car trying to figure out what all those other people are doing.
Okay, so I guess they show that too.
Yeah, but then it turns out the woman was actually a shadow and not really a police officer. And
What an interesting show. Wow. There's a lot going on there.
yeah, but it's not what it pretended to be. You know, in the advertisements, it's not about violations of privacy.
That's interesting. Like, why did they make it about that angle and not about what it truly is? Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe they actually wanted to say something about privacy in the internet age, but then their marketing department told them that kung fu fights or whatever those are more interesting to the audience. I don't know.
Probably. I mean, I'm guessing because like a few people are going to be interested like in violation of privacy, but then the general population, they're probably going to be like, we want to see the kung fu fight, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that was. I mean, it could be something completely different. It's
Or
just
just like some sort of fight scene, action scene, which they don't
right,
appeal to me at all. Like, I really hate that stuff, but I'm not the general audience either.
right. No, I mean, they try to hook you with this story of this family and this girl who, you know, went to prison and she's trying to rebuild her life. And then she meets this guy, and unfortunately, they can't tell each other the truth because they're, you know, in this world of lies. But
Well, even though it's fictionalized, maybe it's just kind of based on reality in a way that a lot of people put on this facade all the time. That's kind of
well, yeah, that part of it could be true.
that part. I think like that's not about internet privacy or anything, but that's an interesting angle.
Right. And by the way, do you know what a burner phone is? Because that keeps coming up in that.
Oh yes, a burner phone. Okay, you can't really get them anymore because now they pass laws, but people still can get them. That's the irony. They pass laws saying you can only have like 6-track phones, but the criminals, they're gonna know like that they can go to a Circle K. It's basically like if you went to a convenience store and you just, back in the day, you could really do this much more easily, and you would just buy like a track phone, like a prepaid phone, and that's a phone that you can use to commit a crime, and then you just throw it away or destroy it and they can't track you. Because back in the day, you didn't really have to show ID or anything for it.
What I've seen in a lot of these Korean shows, and I wonder whether it's true, is that the older your phone is, the easier it is for you not to get tracked.
Yes, this is true because now they put more tracking tools. And back in the day, like I was saying, like there's actually criminals that have committed crimes where they would just go to like a convenience store, buy a prepaid phone card or a phone, and then that would be a burner phone for committing a crime. And you can't really track someone because they didn't have to show an ID, and there wasn't the tracking tools on it that the phones today where they're telling you like you need to share your location. So yeah, that's, people used to do it all the time. I think they've tried to clamp down on it though more with the regulations.
Well, I mean, we're still allowed to not share our location.
We are, this is true, but a lot of people do it anyway without realizing what they're doing.
But what I saw on the show, and I don't know if it's true or not, is somebody was using a very old phone. It's not necessarily one you got at a convenience store, but it's a phone that was a new phone, 10 years ago, and it's not a new phone now. Okay.
Yeah.
And by using an older phone, they couldn't be tracked even when they were online talking to them, or it could be tracked, but it was the radius, it could be tracked to a large space.
Yeah, to like a certain ping tower, but not as precisely.
Yeah, right. So this sort of thing makes me think that I shouldn't buy any new phones, or that I should keep all my old ones.
Well, you can if you want to. I mean, and if they still work, you don't have to get rid of them.
Well, the question is, can you get service for them?
You might not be able to. Like, actually, we recently had to get my mom a new phone because she kept getting a notification. And her phone's only from 2016, but it kept telling her that it was only implemented for 2G networks, and her phone would stop working in December of this year. So my sister got her a new phone recently because her phone wasn't going to work anymore.
So they're discontinuing the 2G networks?
They are in our area. I don't know about in other states, but in Southern California, yes, there will be no more. I have a 5G phone actually. But I haven't had a 2G phone in a very long time. She had a very basic Android phone because that's what she wanted. But it's kind of sad because they're basically forcing people to upgrade their phones here where I live.
Yeah. So I'm wondering whether any of that will be helpful. I have a lot of older phones, but the question is, can you get any service for them? And can you just transfer your SIM card from phone to phone if you want to?
It might be hard. You probably could do it, but you'd have to go on a lot of tech sites. And I think they're going to make it much more difficult, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. You just will have to.
But by the same token, I think that buying new cars right now is not a good idea either.
No, definitely not. Like, no, my sister looked into that too, and the new cars are so expensive. No,
but that's not even the whole issue. Not just how expensive they are; they're all computerized, and somebody from far away can stop them or change their direction.
Yeah, they can do that, and then and here's another just simple thing. Like you can't really repair them yourself anymore. Like back in the day, my dad could do basic car repair, but now because they're computerized, you're forced to take them to an auto mechanic.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing too that you have to think about.
Well, yeah, because they have so many chips in them.
Yeah.
So it might be better to buy an antique, a jalopy, and fix it, and then not be afraid that somebody else will remote control you when you're driving.
I think that would be a good thing. Actually, a lot of people, car restoration is a big thing. I think having like a classic, not necessarily classic, but just a car that you can repair and keeps running, like it's worth its weight in gold. Really, it is for sure.
Yeah, that's what I think about a lot of things. I mean, people talk about smart houses, where they control the climate, and there's a
Oh,
computer that
oh.
controls every room in the house and all that. I
Ooh,
don't think I
see,
want
I don't
that.
know if I would like that because okay, I keep getting this notification from my utility saying, "Do you want to opt in to having your energy turned off, like just automatically at certain parts of the day because it will help conserve energy?" And I don't see how that even applies to me because I don't even run my air conditioning that much, but maybe I want my lights on, but maybe some people want to run their air conditioning and I don't want to opt in. But my question is like, let's say you buy one of those smart houses, are they going to come in? Like, are they already going to have that tool where it says it's going to turn off your energy at certain times of the day or something?
Well, the question is, who gets to control that, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I'm concerned. I don't think I would want to have something where you don't have control over like your own environment. That's very dystopian, really.
yeah. So that's why when I was talking to you about the architecture and sustainability, I'm not against sustainability, but I think it needs to not be centralized.
I don't think anything should be centralized because the more centralization you have, the more power corruption. And it just seems like a lot of people are willing to give that up. Like they just want to, oh, I want the new thing, but maybe the older thing or is much better because it's not controlled by a central entity that could compromise it.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we need to form a group of people who are interested in decentralized sustainability.
I like that whole idea of decentralized sustainability. But like I said on our other live stream, I think the people that were always interested in this are actually more sustainable than the people who are claiming that sustainable because it's political once again, it's been politicized. It's not just about wanting to be frugal.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because people have been trying to be frugal all their lives. And a lot of times the government wants us to spend more, you know?
Yeah, and look at those people that they made fun of because they wanted to live off the grid and they kind of made fun of Jesse Ventura for doing that. Like, oh, he wants to live off the grid, but when you looked at it, he was being sustainable because he didn't want to be on the power grid and he didn't want to use like centralized electricity. And they were mocking him because of his political views. I don't agree with all his political views, but like if you thought about it, somebody like him is far more sustainable than people that are flying around the world claiming to care about the environment.
I think so. I think so. So actually, we started out with art, and then we talked about Turkish television, Korean television, and now we're talking about how to make the world a better place. So I think we did okay.
I think we did good. It was an interesting talk.
So I look forward to talking to you again very soon, Julia.
Definitely.